A full slate, another dizzyingly busy weekend domestically and on the European continent. We'll start over there before we come home to MLS playoffs. Long ball number 2, the biggest games in Europe. Should we start off Newcastle versus Arsenal? That's the first game early Saturday morning.
I mean, that's an interesting one. Does anybody think Eddie Howe is making the season if things stay the way they are at Newcastle United? I don't. Do you, Robert? Do you see Eddie Howe holding on?
The leadership at Newcastle has shown patience and restraint so far. There isn't a lot of rumor mill stuff going on as far as like who's the next replacement at Newcastle, but it has not been a good start, and he's still kind of riding off of his first year successes at the helm.
Yeah.
Obviously, Newcastle doesn't want to go to the Bruce era again, but it's not going as well as it could be in the Northeast.
Well,
of England.
they beat Chelsea, a rotated Chelsea, in the League Cup on Wednesday, so that's a little bit of momentum going into the league weekend. It just hasn't been good recently for Newcastle United in the Premier League. They lost to Chelsea, they lost to Brighton, they drew with Everton, they drew with City, which was a reasonable result at the end of September. They lost to Fulham. I mean, it just maybe there is a sense that we need to wait this out, that we have to have patience, that we need to get to another transfer window at United before we can feel like we've given Eddie Howe all the tools necessary. I don't know how much pressure is on Eddie Howe to get a result in this game, but that St. James's Park crowd is not going to be thrilled if they just kind of punt against Arsenal and don't look like they're competitive. And, Arsenal with the gutsy draw against Liverpool gives them a real sense that, they're still in this thing, right? I mean, I've read the stories, the Athletic saying the math says that this might be the way the table looks at the end of it. That City will win, that Liverpool will be second, that Arsenal is going to be third, and then, adjust accordingly. But Arsenal has every reason to think, based on the last 2 seasons, that they could be in this thing till the end. And so I would expect them to bring some energy to this match, despite whatever injury issues they might have. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think this is the game that gets Eddie Howe fired by any means, but it might be a difficult one to navigate.
Yeah, Arsenal heading into that matchup up in Newcastle off the back of their midweek exploits in the AFL Cup, a 3-0 win away at Preston North End. And just a curious note about that game is second, they obviously heavily rotated Arsenal, but second half, Mikel Arteta brought on starters Havertz, Partey, and Saka, which was a surprising move. But the second game to kind of look at league, I guess second place, can't say league toppers anymore, but Liverpool taking on Brighton and Hove Albion, who they themselves had a midweek clash in the EFL Cup, a 3-2 win for Liverpool. I'm curious, Arne Slot he's developing, you can see the emotional connection with the fans and the team growing these last couple weeks. I remember there was he's been playing it very coy. Schlott, very professional, easing his way, not trying to be that huge personality and, guiding the cop and the Anfield crowd. But you see little by little getting more emotive on the sidelines and getting into it and reacting to fouls and celebrating and starting to become, that figurehead and easing into that role after really kind of stepping into the shadow pretty brilliantly. And then Brighton come in, they've not been, they've been kind of up and down so far this season.
I mean, I think they've done really well, considering they've got a new, extremely young manager, considering that they've done another transition to yet another regime after Graham Potter and who am I missing there? Who's the Italian manager that just went through? It doesn't. My brain's just not calling the name. It's in there somewhere. But obviously, we've got a team in Brighton that is punching above its weight. I mean, they have a reasonable shot at making Europe again this year, and that's I think that right there is remarkable. And every time you see any of the big clubs go up against Brighton, their manager is inevitably crediting their team. I mean, Arne Slot did it this week in the League Cup. We've seen Pep talk about this team and how they keep doing it. And you know, yeah, this is an impressive out. De Zerbi. Thank you very much to KY who throws out De Zerbi. That was the coach I was trying to think of. But
It's a
yeah,
conveyor belt. Don't
it
worry about
is.
that. That's a conveyor
It
belt
is.
right there.
And think about this. I mean, okay, again, the bar is different at Brighton than it is at Manchester United, just historically, right? Man United is supposed to be competing for Premier League titles, and that's the standard that every manager is held to. And win trophies. That's the standard every manager is held to. At Brighton, it's different. It's like if you are in the quarterfinals of the cup tournaments you're in, if you are fighting for a European spot in the Premier League, you are outperforming history at Brighton. You are doing wonderfully at Brighton. But think about the managers that Brighton has brought there. And maybe it's something else, right? Maybe it's not just the managers, but Potter, De Zerbi, now Hertzler, they keep finding guys who keep finding success, who maintain Brighton at that level of punching above its proverbial weight. That's a credit. Like that's huge. That's something United hasn't figured out, right? It's something Chelsea may have just figured out with Moretzka. Like we're seeing a club set a standard for bringing through young managers, interesting managers, managers who play, play progressive, sort of high-minded football, and it's interesting. I mean, you could do worse if you're a fan coming to the game and like, hey, I need a Premier League team, than picking Brighton.
Yeah, I hope that it continues. Yeah, I undersold them. 4 wins, 4 draws, and just the one defeat so far, sitting in second place. And they've been doing it in very interesting ways. And the main
Sixth
contributor.
place. They're in sixth, right? Did you
Yeah,
say second?
sixth
Sixth place.
place.
Okay.
Sorry if I misspoke there, but they're doing an interesting way. I mean, some of their main contributors are from their scouting, like Matoma, an amazing player, but they've
Mhm.
also picked up castaways. Reuter was kind of a
Yeah.
Leeds castaway, and then
Danny
a Tales
Welbeck.
from the past leading scores Danny Welbeck.
Danny Welbeck.
Who
Yeah,
puts
it's
that on their
great.
score on their bingo card that Danny Welbeck's leading a top half team in scoring at this point of the season. It's early, but I mean, they've been impressive doing it in all sorts of ways and also bringing up youth through their ranks as well. So they're kind of picking up talent in a variety of ways. They don't have just like one singular formula. And we'll see. Hopefully they're doing they've been selling off a lot, but replacing them at an
Yes. Yeah.
incredible rate.
And it's a little bit Southampton, but with better success,
Yeah,
right?
but hopefully, yeah, they don't sell all their players and then never get that new breed. And that's kind of when those teams kind of fall off. Those overachievers kind of fall off is when, that conveyor belt of talent runs out.
There you go.
Southampton, definitely the tank is empty, you'd say down there
Yeah,
at
and
the other
that's
South Coast team.
incredibly difficult to maintain that year in and year out, forever and ever and ever, right? And we have our own example here in the United States with Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia or Dallas, who maybe didn't turn it into the on-field success that Philadelphia did, but you look at that Dallas Academy that was so heralded for so long, and now it's like, well, wait, where's the new young talent coming out of the Dallas Academy?
The
Not quite
bank,
there.
the bank is running out, and so we'll go from the island over to the European continent. Americans, hopefully in action in Italy. Udinese welcome Juve.
Yeah, this look, the interesting games I think across Europe as we get ready for the November break. Italy is particularly tight, although it looks very much like Napoli is the class of Serie A, especially after that win over Milan in midweek. The Udinese start has been solid, good. Obviously, if Juventus is going to pull themselves into any sort of title race or absolutely make sure of a top four spot and a Champions League position next year, then this is the kind of game you got to get something from. It's a couple draws in a row for Juve. They haven't beaten in a while, but I don't think that anybody's overly impressed with the 2-2 against Parma in midweek on Wednesday, and you had the 4-4 against Inter. That probably took a little bit out of Juventus, obviously, in quite a while game. We'll see if Juve can keep it going from an entertainment perspective. Udinese's given up 14 goals in 10 games, and yet sits seventh, just 2 points back of Juve. So we'll see if there's goals in this one.
In other Serie A American-related matchups, Milan and Christian Pulisic, hopefully he's feeling healthier, making the trip to 17th place Monza.
Yeah, what's your flu remedy? Go-to flu remedy, Robert. I mean, obviously there's like actual medication. Like I'm a Theraflu guy. I'll go Theraflu pretty quickly to try to get over something. My wife is a Mucinex. She's just like, it's time to go to bed. Mucinex to the head. She's out. NyQuil and that kind of stuff. I wonder if Christian Pulisic has a go-to, or if he's like, chicken soup kind of
Mine's
guy.
a matzo ball soup. Lots of matzo ball soup
Okay,
and
okay.
lots of sleep.
Lots of sleep. You gotta get your sleep in. You gotta get your sleep. I mean, he did play half an hour in that match against Napoli, unable to make a difference. The story for Napoli, or for Milan right now, excuse me, is not whether or not Christian Pulisic is going to get over his flu. The story is what's going on with Rafael Leao and Paulo Fonseca. That's the story, because Leao is a talented player, right? And I think if you talk about ceiling on the attacking side of the ball, right? Ceiling on the attacking side of the ball, despite the difference in production, Leao is a better player at a higher level than Christian Pulisic. I mean, that's the general consensus out there. Now, whether that's some anti-American bias or I don't know. And obviously, Leao's had very good seasons. He's been excellent. I mean, he's been excellent for Milan in the past. This is not like he hasn't shown it yet. He has. But there clearly is a disconnect between Fonseca and Leao, and it maybe comes down to whether or not Leao can do the things on the defensive side of the ball, be a total player the way that Fonseca wants him to, because that's what Pulisic is doing. In addition to being the guy scoring the goals and setting them up, Pulisic is willing to do more of that defensive work, and it's kept him in the lineup, humming along, while Leao has been dropped. He was dropped from the starting lineup against Napoli at the San Siro. And when you have a star player, Robert, and he butts heads with a coach, particularly a coach who's not getting the kind of results that Milan fans demand, what usually happens?
It's usually not a good sign, and usually is foreshadowing to a dismissal and maybe a pink slip.
That's right. I don't think we're long for Fonseca being shown the door at AC Milan.
Oh boy, I'm getting called out here. One of our commenters has zero affiliation with Syria, so he wants to take a moment to call out my
hold on.
My background.
Zagorski is not an Italian name. Is that what you're telling me? I'm shocked to learn this. No Italian background. I mean, you could have some Italian back there somewhere with Zagorski, but
oh boy,
no. I got Italian. I'm Davis, but I got Italian somewhere in there. Southern Italian. I don't know. I'm gonna have to pick Napoli. All right, let's move on. Let's keep it humming.
I blame the globalization on that. All right.